Welcome to the Westcott Crochet channel and welcome to this light summer flowers sweater. This one works up quite quickly with mostly double crochet stitches, creating this lovely bold floral pattern. I used approximately 750 meters of DK medium weight yarn on this one. It recommends a 5mm hook and that was the size I used. I also used a tape measure, stitch markers and a yarn needle. If you enjoyed the tutorial, please throw me a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, do subscribe to the channel and tap the little bell for notifications on future uploads. If you like, you can also follow me on Instagram, and if your account is set to public, do please tag at Westcott Crochet on any pictures of your Westcott Crochet projects. To get started, first you need to measure from the outer edge of one shoulder across to the outer edge of the other. Add on 20 centimeters to allow 10 centimeter overhang on each side. Your stitch count must be a multiple of 18 minus 1. To ensure that you get a good fit, also measure around the widest part of your upper body. Your panel must cover at least half of this measurement. It's fine if it's bigger than this, but it cannot be smaller. I'm going to work just a small sample to show you how the pattern works. So for me, I'm just going to chain up 53. I have my 53 chains, and here you can either chain an extra 2 and the first 3 chains will become your first double crochet, or you can work a standing double crochet into the very first stitch. Pull up my loop to the height of a double crochet and hold the loop to my hook. I'm just going to flip my chain over because I'm going to work the back bumps. So holding on to loop number 1, I wrap around for loop number 2. I go in through the stitch and pull back loop number 3, still holding on to loop number 1. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops for a standing double crochet. I'm going to put 1 double crochet into every back bump, and that's row 1. So here I have a row of double crochets, and although I said that's row 1, it's not row 1 of the actual pattern. This is just a border row. Row 1 of the pattern starts next, and it's a 6-row repeat. It's technically 2 rows, but there are several different starts and finishes, so it's a 6-row repeat altogether. So turn around and either chain 3 for your first double crochet or work a standing double. And then into the next 6 stitches work 6 more double crochets, so 7 in total. So 7, chain 3, skip 3 into number 4, start again with double crochet, and I'm going to work 15 this time. There's 15. I'm going to chain 3, skip 3, and then work another 15. I'll do that all the way to the end of the row. Chain 3, skip 3, work 15. Chain 3, skip 3, work 15. At the end of your row, you should chain 3, skip 3, and work 7 double crochets, same as you started. So that's the first row of the actual pattern. Row 2 of the pattern, I'm going to start with a standing double, or again chain 3 if you're chaining 3. and then next stitch along and 2 more. So I'm working 4 double crochets in total for the start of this second row, and I'm stopping just 3 short of this gap here that I've created. I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to work 3 doubles into this space. Chain 3, skip 3, and then back onto doubles again, and this time just 9. And you should be, after your 9, 3 short of the next gap. Here I am, 3 double crochets on the row previous, and then the gap. Chain 3, skip those 3, into the gap, 3 more doubles. Chain 3, skip 3, 9 more doubles. Again, I'm 3 short of the gap, so I'll chain 3, skip those 3, 3 doubles into the gap, chain 3, and I'm here at the end, so I'm skipping 3 and then working 4 double crochets at the end here, same as I started. There we go. So the gaps are basically petals of the little flowers. So we created 1 petal on the row 1, a petal on either side of the row 1 petal, and then we're going to create another one on top for row 3. So the row started on row 1 with 7, then with 4, and now we start with 7 again for row 3. So that's 4 on top of the double crochets and 3 in this space here. There we go. Chain 3 into the next space, 3 more doubles. And then on we go. Next stitch, pick up on the doubles. I'm going to work up to this chain space and put 3 in there. So there we go. Chain 3 to create the petal on top of this flower. Skip across there and 3 in the chain space on the other side. And then carry on to the next chain space with your double crochets in between the 2 flowers. Three in your chain space, a chain of 3, 3 in the chain space on the other side. And here I'm at the end, and I'm going to work the last 4, making the total of 7 that I started with. And there we have a set of flowers. So that's rows 1, 2 and 3 of the 6-row repeat. Row 4 starts with 16 double crochets. So I turned around and worked my 16 double crochets, 3 of which were in the chain space. Then I'm going to chain 3, skip 3 and carry on. I'm going to work 6, 3, 6 more. So 15 in total. Here's my next set of 15, chain 3, skip 3, another set of 15. Oh, in fact I'm at the end, so I'm going to be on 16, the way I started. So you can see here I've created 2 new petals that are staggered between the other flowers for the start of the next row of flowers. So that was row 4 of the repeat. Row 5 starts with 13 double crochets, and I should be 3 short of this gap. Here's my 13, 3 short of the gap, and I'm going to create the petals on either side of this bottom petal. So 3 chains into the chain space, 3 doubles, 3 chains for the other side, skipping the 3 and working the stitches in between. I think we're on for 9 again this time. Yes. So 9 in between should bring me 3 short of the next gap. And there I am. So chain 3, 3 into the gap, chain 3 out the other side, skip your 3 stitches, and on we go for the next 9. Except of course I'm at the end of my row here, so I'm going to work 13 the same as I started. That was row 5 of the pattern repeat, and we started down here with row 1 with the 7 double crochets, and 4, and then a 7, 16, 13, we're back to a 16 start, and those are the differences. So I'll work 16 double crochets. there's my 16. Last 3 were worked in the chain space. A chain 3, skip over those 3 into the next chain space, 3 doubles. And I'm creating the top petal for this flower. And there he is. Carry on across, all the way across, working 15 in total, including these 3 and these 3 in this chain space. Chain 3, 3 into the next chain space, and so on. So that's the last row of the repeat. 16, chain 3, 15, chain 3, then you keep working 15, chain 3, 15, chain 3 until you end where you end with 16. And from here you just keep working those 6 rows on repeat. You stop working your rows when you get to within 3 rows of your full height. Here's my panel, just 3 rows short of the full height. And I worked 31 rows and it's about 44 centimetres. I've just added markers at the top here because this is where the neck opening is going to be. It's about a third, roughly. Obviously the same stitch on either side. I'm going to work decreases at this point and this point to form a little slope. So I'm going to work up to within 2 stitches of this marker here, and I'll come back. So here I've worked my row as normal up to the point I mentioned, 2 stitches up to the marker. I've worked my last hole here, it's fine there. I'm trying to keep the pattern going for as much as possible without having holes on the edge. As I say, I'm 3 short of the edge, so I'm okay there. Otherwise I would have just worked a solid double crochets across and just missed out that hole. So here I am, 2 stitches to go. I'm going to work these 2 stitches together to form a decrease. So yarn over for the first one, in through the stitch, pull back a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over for the second one, in through the stitch, pull back a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. And those 2 stitches are now 1. I'm just going to turn around and come back. So I've just turned around off camera and come back here. I'm going to work these first 2 stitches together as a decrease as well. So if you're chaining to start, you're going to chain 1, 2, and then work your second one. I'm going to work the standing double start, so back I go. Pull up my loop, wrap it round, in through the stitch, and pull back loop number 3, yarn over, pull through 2, and I stop there and going for the second one, yarn over, in through that stitch, pull back my loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3 to work the 2 together. Then I'm just going to carry my pattern all the way along to the other end. Okay, so that's the end of that row, and you can see now the scoop neck is starting to form clearly. So I kept obviously this flower going as normal. I can't on this side because there's not room for a second hole, so again it's just double crochets, which I worked obviously the 2 together to start with, and then 3 in the gap and carried on there as normal. So as much as I can keep the flowers going, I will, but where I'm on an edge I can't put a hole on an edge, so it's just double crochets. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to work back to this end and work 2 together at the end again. For this last row, the third row, I'm going to work solidly double crochets, not working the flower pattern anymore. So double crochets all the way along, 1 in each stitch, 3 in each gap, and then 2 together at the end. So for that last row, as I say, solid row of double crochet. I started down here with 31 stitches in. I've now got 28 at the top here, having worked 1, 2, 3 decreases. Next, I'm going to work down this slope with single crochets, 2 in the side of each double crochet. So 2 singles, 2 singles, 2 singles. I'm going to work across the front to my second marker with single crochets, 3 in each gap, 1 on top of every other stitch. And I'm going to work this section over on this side. But this order of business is completely optional. You can just cut your yarn here and reattach over here and work your top section, but I just prefer to stay attached and just go wherever I can. You will have to go around the neckline with single crochet, but you can choose to do it all at once at the end. So here's what I'm going to do. As I say, I'm going to get rid of that to start with. Chain one, and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the side of each double. It's a side stitch, so there's no stitch to go into, you just have to dive in. So there's 2 in that one, and the next one. And put them in the same spot, it doesn't matter in this instance. And the last one. So that's 6 single crochets, just going down my little slope here. Brings me to the regular stitches across the top. And I'm just going to work across, as I say, to the other marker. So you can do this now, or you can do this later. It's up to you. So here I've gone all the way across the front there. I'm going to slip stitch into the marked stitch. The last stitch was the one before the one that I've marked. So I'll slip stitch into there for now. And then I'm going to work these 2 stitches together to mirror what happened over on the other side. So I'm just going to take that out for now because I don't need it. So again, for me, you're either chaining 2 and working the second double crochet to form 1 stitch, or you're going to do the standing double to the halfway point and then pick up your second one and work them together. So I'm literally matching everything that have happened over here. So here I worked 2 together, and then I worked 1 on its own, and then I have the chain 3 and the gap. And then my pattern's a standard 6 on this side, and so on. So just see what you did on the other side and copy it. So here I've worked up the complete 3 rows, same as I did over on the other side, and at the end here, I was over here, so I chained 1 and I've worked all the way around the outer edge, so all the way down this side, 2 single crochets in the side of each double crochet, right down to the bottom, where I've gone across the bottom with single crochets, 1 stitch in each, and I'll work the other side. And there I've chained and cut. Just need to make a front panel now, and the front panel exactly the same way, except I'm going to stop 6 rows short of the top, so this will be my last row on the front panel. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. Here's my front panel, 28 rows, 6 rows short of the full height, and I've added markers where my scoop's going to start, the next scoop on either side. The back panel, I ended up with 28 stitches across the shoulder. I need to end up with 28 across the shoulder for the front as well. I'm going to work 6 decreases over these next 6 rows. So if I add 6 to my 28, that's how many stitches I come in on either side. 34 for me. I'm going to work in exactly the same way as I worked for the back, but there's 6 rows instead of 3. So 5 rows, I'll keep the pattern going as much as I possibly can. And on the 6th row is going to be double crochet the whole way across, again the same as I did for the last row on the back panel. Okay, so that's the side of the front panel, the first side. Obviously I had to stitch a petal here because it was too close to the edge. You're going to have different results as to where your flowers land on this section, depending on where you stopped at this point. So I'm over at the wrong corner this time. I can't just scoop down here and come across and do the other side, but what I can do is I can join my 2 shoulders, and that will then have me over here, and then I can do what I did before. Again, entirely up to you, do whatever you prefer. You can cut and tie here, reattach over here and work your second side, and then seam the shoulders separately. I'm just going to seam one of the shoulders just now. So here I have my 2 shoulder sections lined up. The 2 right sides are facing each other on the inside, and I'm just going to single crochet across here to join these 2 sides. So I'm still attached here. I'm going to go in through the stitch on one side, on one panel, then on the other, pull back a loop and just single crochet, and I'm going to do that the whole way across. As I say, you can decide to do this now, you can do it later, you can slip stitch it, you can sew it, you can do whatever you prefer, whenever you prefer. This is just what I'm doing today. So one stitch in each all the way across my 28. Will see me at the corner here. So here I've worked the 28 stitches, that is my shoulder seam. This is what it looks like on the right side. I'm just going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that I worked just on the back going down the gradient here, and that just anchors me off there. I'm going to turn around off camera and come back in a minute. Okay, I'm all turned around. I'm going to work my single crochets now down the front, slope across to here, and then I can work my second shoulder section on the front panel. Again, this can all be done later. If you prefer to do the two sides separately, that's absolutely your choice. Work your two sides, seam them up separately, and just have probably a more orderly order of business. I just prefer to do it this sort of crazy convoluted way. So I'm going down the front, across here, and I'm going to work up my second side. So I've worked up the entire second section, shoulder section on my front panel, and the only bit I've yet to single crochet on this neckline is up here and down here, and I'll pick that up later as I come to finish the neckline. Right now I'm going to seam the top of the shoulder and work the whole edge of this front panel down the side, across the bottom, up the other side with single crochet. I've been busy adding the sleeve on one side, a cuff, the neckline and a base band. I'm going to show you how all that works while working the sleeve on the other side. I'm just going to turn myself inside out. So that's me inside out to work the seam from the bottom going up to where the sleeve starts. For the sleeve, I'm going to work it in a round this time, so in a continuous round rather than rows, and then going back the other way in a continuous round. I need a multiple of 18 stitches for that to work, and I need the same amount of stitches on the front as I have on the back. So I've gone 36 down from the top and 36 down on the other side as well. So I'm going to work my seam from the bottom here up to and including these two marked stitches. As with your shoulders, work whichever seam you prefer. I'm going to single crochet because that's the way I've worked so far. So through with my slip knot, chain one to secure that, and into the very same stitch, single crochet on both sides. Next stitch on both sides, and again just single crochet, and I'll work my seam, as I say, up to and including the two marked stitches. If you don't include your marked stitches, you leave a little gap at the top, so work those ones as well for the single crochet or your last stitch of your seam. So I've finished my seam and I've turned right side out again and just sort of wrangled my yarn into position. I'm just going to work a round of double crochet to start with. If you look at the rounds of double crochet, one row seems to be sitting back and one row seems to be sitting forward. Next one's back, next one's forward, and so on. And the forward rows are technically the backs of the stitches, and these that are sitting back are the fronts of the stitches. So I've started with the fronts here, so I need to start with the fronts over on this side as well. So just making sure that the work is facing towards me and I'm working with the right side facing out, not on this side. Otherwise my stitches will look different on both sleeves. I'm just going to zoom in and we'll get started. So here, if you could see, my last stitch on my seam is in the two marked stitches here, so they actually form part of my sleeve stitch count. So I've chained one at the end and I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch that I've just stitched into, because as I say, they have to form part of your sleeve stitch count. So I'm going to start with a round of double crochet, and I'm just going to start with a standing double. If you're starting with a chain 3, that's you go. So chain 3, and then just one stitch in each all the way around, and I'm going to count them to make sure that I've worked 36 up this side and 36 down the other. At the end of that round, I've just slip stitched into stitch number 1 to close it off. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to work my very first stitch for this next round into the same stitch that I've just slip stitched into. So again, if you're chaining 3, chain your 3. And I'm going to work 6 more double crochets to make 7 in total to start. Six, one more, 7. I'm going to chain 3, skip 3, and work 15. And that's the story the whole way around. Chain 3, skip 3, work 15, until you get to the last bit where you'll work 8 to go with these 7 to make 15. That's the end of round 2. I have little chain spaces, 15 double crochets in between. I've slip stitched into the first stitch again and turned around, and this time again working from that very same stitch, so my turning point is the same, and I'm going to work to within 3 stitches of this chain space. So it's the same pattern as I've been working on the body, just working it in a round. 3, 4, 5 and 6. Gets me to that point. And then I need to make the 2 petals on either side of this bottom petal. So 1, 2, 3 chains, 3 doubles in the space, and 3 doubles out the other side. Sorry, 3 doubles out to the other side, 3 chains out to the other side, and skip your 3. So you know how the flower pattern goes at this point, so we're just working that exact same pattern, just making it fit around as opposed to a row. So I'll just keep working that way for this row, or round, making the petals on either side. So as we close that round, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on one side, and only 1, 2, 3 on the other. And that's deliberate. I've deliberately offset the pattern of this central seam, and the reason will become clear after this round when we approach a hole. There is absolutely no clear path through on this pattern, so you can't work all the way up without reaching a hole at some point. It's got to, because the flowers are staggered, you will eventually come upon a hole. So I want it to be on one side of the hole so that I can just slip stitch back 1 position rather than 2 each time, or more than, more than 1. So turn around, come back the other way. So next round is the top petal, starting where I finished off, same stitch, working up to and including 3 in this chain space, chain 3, 3 out the other side, and so on, and just creating the top petal as you normally would. And so on. So close that round, and I've slip stitched into the top of the first stitch as always. And here, as I look at my pattern, I'm now at the edge of where a hole should be. So if I start my first stitch on this next round in the same position, I'm in a hole, or in where a hole should be. So I need to slip stitch an extra stitch along. So where I slip stitch to close, I'm going to go 1 more at the end of that last row, and then I'm into position, to work the first stitch into not a hole. So working the first stitch, and then I'm straight on to a chain 3, skipping 1, 2, 3, and 6 double crochets on top of the next 6 double crochets. So if you count backwards, there's 6 double crochets on top of 6 double crochets, and then you're onto a chain space. So that's where you know your hole needs to be the next 3 along from there. So this one is now working 15 and leaving a hole. 3 in there, 6 in there, it's 9. And then chain 3, skip 3, and 15 again, all the way around. At the end, you should work 14 because you already have number 1 here. So that's closed off that round, and again I'm in the spot where we're going to have a hole. So every time the holes are on the central seam, so for this flower it's going to be basically the whole thing. So every time the flower is on a central seam, you're going to have to slip stitch out of the way of yourself. So again, I'm going to slip stitch for a second time into the chain space. Then I turn around and work just 1 of that batch of 3 and close off with the last 2. And just work the pattern as normal. So that's the only difference on the working it in a round. You just need to slip stitch an extra time here and there when the flower hits your seam, so that you're in position to work the rest, and then you just work 1 stitch and then finish it off at the end of the round. So here, just wrangle myself, first stitch of what would be 3 in this chain space, and then I need to work the petal for this side, so 1, 2, 3 chains, skip those 3, and you're on as normal. And at the end, I'll probably come back actually, but at the end I'm going to chain 3, skip these 3, work 2 double crochets into that last chain space. So here I am at the end of the round. I've stopped 3 stitches short of the chain space. I've chained 3, and I'm going to work the 2 double crochets in this chain space that go with number 3 over here, and then just slip stitch into the top of there. So again, here we are in a chain space. So we'll slip stitch again 1 more time, and the first stitch, just spin around, is in here, followed by a chain 3 to form the top petal. And then the round ends with the solid block from here to here, ending in 2 to join this one. Just be aware of your flowers that you're making, and you'll know where to put your petals and where to slip stitch to make sure that you've got your gap as you should have. So again, end of the round, just worked up to the chain space. I've got to put 2 more in here to go with this guy. Okay. So that's it for the flower on the seam for now. The next round I can work my first stitch into the same stitch I just slip stitched into as normal. I'm going to turn around and work 6 in total. Then I've got a chain of 3 in a gap to coincide with this one below, another 6, and so on. So I just need to keep adding rounds now to sleeve number 2 to match sleeve number 1. The last round is a double crochet round, solid double crochet, the same as the top of the front and back panels. And then after that, I'll come back and work a single crochet row where I'll work decreases. So full length, last row is solid double crochet. So here I have the full length of the sleeve minus the cuff, last row, double crochet row. I have 72 stitches around this end, and I need to reduce that by quite a lot. I need about a quarter of that just to go around my wrist. So next row is single crochet row, and I'm going to work 2 together all the way around to halve the stitch count, and I'll then essentially halve it again in the next stage. But first, I've just slip stitched to close the round, chain 1, turn around, and I'll just zoom in. Okay, starting into the stitch that I'm into currently, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop. I'm going to go into the next one, pull up a loop there. So that's 2 half finished single crochets, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Again, in through 1, pull back a loop, in through number 2, pull back a loop, yarn over and finish them all together. I'm going to do that the whole way around. That ends the rounds of reductions there. I'm just going to slip stitch into stitch number 1 to close that off. I'm going to turn around, let's make sure that I'm working the next row or the next stage with my work facing towards me in the right direction. So this is the front. And from here, I'm just going to chain up 6. Chain number 6 is a turn chain. I'm going to work single crochets into the 5 chains below. I'm going to pick up the top loop and the back loop whilst doing so. There's my 5, and then I come to this last row around the cuff, and I'm going to slip stitch into stitch number 1 next door and number 2 next door to that, and that's where my second reduction takes effect. But I want the cuff to be stretchy, so what I'm going to do now is turn around and slip stitch back up for this return row. Just looking at my work here, I've got 2 little slip stitches there which I need to skip over. My first actual stitch is here, one of the 5. So loosely slip stitching once, twice, 3, 4 and 5 times for me. Obviously work a longer cuff if you want to, or a shorter one. And then we're chain 1, and I'm going to work these slip stitches with single crochets, working all the way back down again. So skipping the turn chain, here's my first one, and single crochet back down. Make sure you're working the slip stitches you've just worked. I'll just show you what it should look like in a minute. Okay, so working the slip stitches, they're kind of at the back almost. You don't want to work these loops at the front here. That's the wrong part. The slip stitches that you just worked, if you work them and just note where they are, they're kind of sitting at the back as you turn around. So you want to pick up those stitches. Right, then I come back to the front and I'm going to slip stitch once and twice again. And then I'm working my way back up with slip stitches, back down with single crochet, and do that all the way around, slip stitching twice around the cuff as I do so each time. So I slip stitch into my final 2 stitches around the cuff, and then I took another trip out and back. So slip stitch out, single crochet back down, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the start point to tie that off. Then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to cut my yarn and leave a tail end so I can seam up these 2 sides. Just thread my yarn through a needle. I'm going to seam up this side to make an invisible seam. So if you look at the side you've just finished working on, you should have the top 2 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, and you should have on the other side a remaining loop from your start chain, and then the stitch beforehand, which has these 2 little legs almost. Don't know what you call them. 2 little legs there on each. So what I'm going to do, got my yarn needle threaded, I'm going to go through the 2 loops on this side and up through the single loop on that side. And then I'm going to go through the 2 little legs, just underneath those. Pull that through. And then back through the stitch on this side that I just went through to start with. So stitch number 1. I then go through stitch number 2 and up through the remaining loop on the other side. Through the 2 little legs underneath. And back through the stitch on the other side. Next stitch, same thing, through the 2 loops there, under the 1 loop there, under the 2 loops from the little stitch there, back through the same stitch on the other side, and just work that the whole way along. At the end here, you're just going to want to work a little knot. And you're all threaded up to weave in the end. And as you'll see now, working the slip stitch makes quite a stretchy little cuff. For the neckline, I worked in the same way as the cuff, except I worked 3 stitches, so chaining out 4 initially and working the 3 stitches in rows of single crochet and slip stitch. The difference was I only slip stitched once every time I arrived here at the neckline instead of twice like I did on the cuff. So slip stitch once and then it doesn't pull in. It leaves it nice and sort of unpuckered. So the first thing to do is to make sure you've got single crochet going all the way around. For me, I had it most of the way around. I just had to work up and over the one shoulder, and I just started from there and worked my ribbing. So 1 slip stitch on the collar each time, and on the base I worked with the stitches I already had. I didn't do the single crochet reduction row that I did on the sleeve. I worked with the stitch I already had, and I did do the double slip stitch into the base each time. So unlike the collar, I did slip stitch twice here to make sure it pulled in a little bit. If you don't want it to pull in, then slip stitch just the once like you do on the collar, the neckline. I've got some ends to weave in and I'm all finished. If you do all of that, you'll have something similar to this. Do let me know how you got on in the comment section. Thanks to everyone out there who's supporting the channel, and thanks so much for watching today.